Hello again. For this lesson, I'm going to be talking about variables. So before we get started, open up the Explorer button here and go to the Round 1 folder and look for the variables lesson and click on run.py. Starting from this lesson, I'm going to use more visualizations to try and help you grasp and think about these concepts more visually. The easiest way to think of variables is to think of containers. In our case, a container has a name, so we know how to find it in the storage room, and we can put stuff into that container. Let's try that out. Let's create a container or a variable called message in a bottle. And inside that container, let's put the message, the car moved 100 steps forward. What we're doing here in programming talk is we're assigning the value of this sentence into the variable message in a bottle. Now in Python, we don't use the arrow to indicate that that value, that message, is going into the container, the variable, but we use the equal sign for it. What this really means though is that we are assigning that value into that variable. Okay, so let's visualize that. To do that, we're going to use the visualization extension we installed in the setup. To open the visualizer, go to Command Palette, type in Preview, and look for the Open Preview to the side entry. Click Enter. With that window open, make that panel much smaller, and you can now see the previewing section over on the right. What we're seeing here is a visualization of the message in a bottle container or variable and what's inside it. In this case, the message, the car moved 100 steps forward. Now let's say that we've changed what's assigned to that variable right afterwards. So message in a bottle gets assigned with the number 1. You'll see that container or variable now represent what the message in a bottle variable holds by the end of the program. As we progress through the lessons, we're going to learn about more and more types of values that we can store in variables. Here are some examples. We can place numbers in variables, so 2, 3, 4, we've already seen that, and we can put something called strings or textual representation of sentences or messages, just like we did with the last sentence, and we call those strings. We can also put in something called booleans, which can be one of two things, either a true statement or a false statement. True and false statements are used widely in programming, much like in real life, to try and represent different states that the program is in, or statements are evaluated to this color is green. True or false. This message has more than 3 words, true or false. This variable has a number in it, true or false. We can also put lists in variables. So we can have a list that holds an empty list, just as you can see on the right, or we can put the numbers 1 through 5 in them. You can think of a list as another type of container that is pointed to by the message in a bottle container, and in the list we have 5 elements. Each element has a name. In this case, the names are ordered numbers of the position they're in. So the first element starts with a 0, so the address of that element is 0. The second box, the second entry in that list, can be addressed through the address 1, and so on and so forth. To make this more apparent, let's make a list of messages, of strings. So message in a bottle is a type of list. Right now it's empty, but let's put in the first message, second, third. So now when we look at what's inside the message in a bottle variable, you'll see a list with 3 elements. The first value is the first message. The second one is second, and the third one is third. The addresses of that list, for the first element, is called 0. So message in a bottle at the position 0 has the first message. Message in a bottle at the position 2 has the value third in it. We can refer and read specific elements within a list by using its address. In this case, if we wanted to get the value that says second, we would write the variable name, message in a bottle, open a bracket, and put the address, the number associated with that box, in this case number 1, for the address here that refers to this value. Print this element and you'll see that what comes out is the value second. Using the same rules, we can also assign a value coming from a different variable into a new variable. So let's define a variable called a Boolean variable and assign it with a true Boolean. And now let's create another variable called another Boolean, only this time we will assign it with what's inside of the a Boolean variable. Now remember, this is not a valid Python statement, so we'll change this with the assigned to character. And what you'll see on the right is that the variable a Boolean var holds true in it, and another Boolean holds the same value in it, just like a Boolean var. And if we change the value of a Boolean var into false, you'll see that both of them change because another Boolean expects to hold what's inside of the a Boolean var variable. Similarly, using the same logic, we can now assign a specific value from a list into a variable. So let's create a new variable called a specific value and assign the second element in message in a bottle by opening brackets. And remember, the first one is indexed at 0 because that's its address. And the second element is indexed at 1. Its address is 1. And what you'll see here that a specific value, a variable, now only has the value of the second element in the list. These are some of the more common use cases we're going to have for variables. And like all other topics, we're going to dig deeper into them in round 2. For now, let's keep moving forward.